good evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Just want to open up with a little bit of prayer here. Just as a heads up, it was supposed to be Christine and I tonight, and we were super excited about that. Christine's mom is in the hospital. We took her to the ER this morning around 2 a.m., and she's going to be there for the next few days. So if you get an opportunity to pray for her and her mom, that would be awesome. Until then, you're stuck with me tonight, but I think I can do this. So let's just go ahead and pray, and then we'll get started. Father in heaven, thank you so much for today. God, thank you for just the little mercies and the little grace that you show us, and I thank you that we can see that when we get perspective. Pray for Alice, pray for her health, and that you would just continue to be with her and be with Chris and our whole side of the family there. God, we thank you for your heart for the nations. Thank you for your heart for missionaries, and just thank you for just opportunities where we can enter into that and how we can see how you are working in those areas. So thank you for that. Pray for this evening, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. I always like to start off with kind of why we do what we do. When you look at Revelation 7, verse 9, after these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude, which no one could count, from every nation and all tribes and peoples and tongues, standing before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed in white robes, and palm branches were in their hands, and they cry out with a loud voice, saying, "Salvation to our God who sits on the throne and to the Lamb." I love the fact that there is every nation, every tribe, every tongue on that piece right there, and I know that's a heart cry for a lot of the people that we work with. So let me just kind of start with that. First and foremost, we're the Matchells. I shouldn't say foremost, but first of all, we're the Matchells. For those of you who don't know us, we are a group of 5. That's our 5 right there. That little image was taken in 2015 when we launched right there, but our mission has actually stayed the same. How do we support missionaries with the gifts God's given us and given our family? This is what we looked like in 2015, 2016, in the top left up there. We were young, not as gray, and just hearts with really wanted to support missionaries as much as we possibly could. So what we did was we went to Kenya, and we worked at a boarding school for missionary kids called Rift Valley Academy. We were there from 2016 to 2021, and you can see the kids. You can see the little lion in the bottom left-hand corner, and you can see in the top right-hand corner just all the kids who were at our school lined up going to church one morning right there. We loved it there. Kenya is a very beautiful place if you ever get the opportunity to go. There's a lot of beautiful things about it. But as we were there and looking to help missionaries, it really hit us that there were different ways to help missionaries. And we'll talk about some of the struggles that missionaries have on the field and opportunities that are there. But we saw those firsthand. We saw missionary kids coming in with families that were just struggling left, right, and center. And as we looked at what we could do to help, Christine and I really sat down and said, we are not equipped to do what we see as the biggest need for missionaries at this point in time. And that was a hard realization to come to know that you see a need, but you can't meet that need. And we prayed about it and thought about it, and God really put it on our hearts that if we were so inclined to see it, maybe we were inclined to meet it as well. But we just had to go get some training, and we had to get equipped for it. So when we came back, we joined a missions agency called Modern Day. And when we went to our original missions agency and pitched this idea of like helping missionaries and coming alongside them, they said, how long will it take? And we said, it's probably going to take 3 years for Christine to get her license and for us to be able to do that. And they said, that's not going to work. Can't happen. We said, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And we went and found another missions agency that would allow us to do that. Modern Day has been really good to us over the last 3 years as we've worked with them. They are basically just there to help us financially and support. And as we do that and work with them, they have been very, very, very good in working with us, pivoting with us whenever we've pivoted with our mission. As we transitioned over the next 3 years, this is what we look like today. We're a little bigger, a little older, a little taller, but that's where we're at. My son and daughter just graduated high school and will be entering college this next fall. Our youngest in the bottom left right there will be a junior at the high school. Christine spent 3 years in hard studies. And she graduated about 2 months ago from John Brown University with a master's in counseling. And she's officially, as of last month, a licensed counselor. That has been a huge step for us. As hopefully I'll be able to paint that picture here in just a second. I've gotten the opportunity to do something called debriefing. I've been around the world. I'll tell you about debriefing here in just a second. But I got my master's in leadership and then went on to get several certifications following that. That's where we're at right now. But let me paint the picture of why we are where we are. There's a question that we get a lot. Why is there actually a need for missionary care? Missionaries are the happiest people on the face of God's green earth. They do not sin. They are obviously picked angels that are just stuck in the positions in which God has called them to. False on a variety of different levels. But when you look at it, there's a real need for the care of those who feel called and feel sent to go out and spread the gospel in a variety of different ways. As I get that question, it's really difficult to kind of paint that picture in a very short format, but I'm going to do my best to do so. Here's a lot of the struggles that we see or saw when we were at Rift Valley Academy. A lot of struggles that we saw missionaries having on the field. Transitions is one. When you think about the number of times and the number of goodbyes that missionaries had the opportunity to see over the course of their service, it's incredible. I sit with missionaries most weeks, and as I sit with them and hear their stories, some people are going through 10, 15 transitions over the course of a 6-month, 1 year period of time. Those transitions can be physical, they can be mental, they can be a variety of different ways, but as you see the picture being painted out, transitions are a really big part of a missionary's life. Unmet expectations, you come in thinking one thing, you have something else that pops up as well. Other missionaries, some people, when they make their little list of what do missionaries struggle with and why do they come off the field, some people actually put that as number one. Is the reason why missionaries leave the field is other missionaries. It's a hard fact that sometimes when you're put into that kind of a pressure cooker with other people, that sin natures come up, and when you expect different from people who are just sinners like yourselves, it really kind of grinds on you. So conflict within the team, leadership, and dual relationships. I always have a hard time explaining dual relationships, so let me just kind of I'll use this nice little deal. I didn't ask him if I could do this, but I just did it anyways. So if you take a great individual, one of the best, like Hodge right there, okay? And I started thinking about it, who's better to play this part than Hodge? If you take a great individual and you stick them on the field, you may, in real life, like right here, like on this side of the pond, you may have an interaction with Hodge as like a friend, you may have it as like an elder, and that may be about it when you start thinking about it. So if you have a bad interaction with him as a friend, all it really affects is just your relationship with him as an elder, and hopefully you can kind of keep those two separate. But as you look at, like on the mission field, you may have families that are embedded with each other so tightly that one person could actually carry all of these different roles at the same time. They could be your lead pastor, they could be the father of your kid's best friend, your only friend, team lead, husband of wife's best friend, dominant language learner in the team, next door neighbor, and teammate. You can have all of those things right there. And if you just think about the amount of conflict that could possibly come with just one of those, and then you multiply it by the amount total, it really has the possibility of putting a strain on relationships very, very quickly. And one of those bleeding into the next, it happens. So when I say dual relationships, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Dual means two, but I say dual plus because when you look at the number of relationships that you could possibly have with an individual, it can be very difficult. Burnout, loss of identity. Who you are here is not who you are there. You may be a leader here. You may have to be a follower there. Family, friends, children's education. I was talking with somebody just the other day. When you look at children's education, you have to look at that on a variety of different levels, one of which is the fact that when you have girls who are in tribal regions with their families, at the age of 12, they actually start getting proposals. So a missionary family right there who's gone to reach this tribe, and the missionary's kids are growing up with the tribe. And as they grow up, they get to the age of 12, and then you start getting proposals from the locals, okay, for the hand in marriage. As that happens, you've got a couple of choices, and one of which is daughter stays there and doesn't accept any of the proposals. And what happens is you set yourself apart from the tribe, you set yourself apart from what happens, and you broke a relationship with the region that you're in, which is not your goal whatsoever. Another goal, or another way in which you can do that, is you actually take your daughter, and your daughter goes to a boarding school. Daughter goes to a boarding school, she's getting her education, and at the same time, that's an acceptable reason for why she's not marrying the people around the tribe. When you look at children's educations, you can think about, oh man, why don't they just homeschool? There's an option for that. There's not always the internet for that. There's not always the resources for that. There's not always the teacher for that. And if you have, a parent who wants to take away their ministry time to homeschool, you're taking one parent away from what they may have thought about as far as what they're going to be doing overseas. There's a lot of different things that are playing into that. All I say is these are just struggles right here. Are they deal breakers? No, but they do build up over the course of time. Adoption. A lot of missionaries adopt or have the heart to adopt. Adoption can be a pretty big struggle, especially when you start thinking about the ways in which to get visas for kids overseas. Finances, local environment, and local government. A lot of us really like to kind of go towards the last three as like the big struggles. If I were to say, what do you think missionaries really struggle with? And finances is probably one of the first things that comes to our mind. But I want you to understand that that's pretty close to near the end as far as those things. When you look at like what's 1 and 2 as far as what they're struggling with, it's the stuff on the left. It's not necessarily the stuff on the right. Dana gave me a great statistic the other day. 76% of missionaries leave the field for preventable reasons. And when you look at the left side right over here, a lot of that would fall into the preventable reasons. Why is it difficult to talk about these? Awesome question. Our heart automatically goes to the idea of if there's something wrong, you should probably say it. True. Yeah, that's true. You should probably go get help. True. But when we put ourselves in that situation, do we oftentimes hide a little bit of what's going wrong? Yeah, we have that proclivity to do that. But there's also a few things that missionaries are going to look at a little bit differently. Number one, if I tell you everything that's going wrong, like in my life right now, and you're a supporter of me, and you think, man, Do I want to keep giving money? Do I want to keep giving prayer to that right there? I mean, that is a real consideration when you're actually trying to say what's really happening. 2, potential loss of organizational opportunities. If I talk to my organization and tell them everything that's going wrong with me, then maybe I don't get that team lead that I've been working towards for 3 years. Maybe they pass me over for kind of stuff because they believe that I'm broken. If this isn't working out, I know when you think about it, there's this spiritual side to it. If this isn't working out, was I wrong in hearing from God? What does this mean about my faith? And what have I done to my family? All of those questions popping into your head as as those struggles start to come to the surface. I realize that I'm painting this really awesome picture right here. It's okay. Things are getting better, I promise. But I got to set the stage, right? Because if I don't tell you why we got into what we're doing and why we're passionate about what we're doing, like I have concern that you may not understand, like why we're so passionate of walking into this fire for the individuals that we really care about. Lack of format to talk in. Sometimes when you come home on home assignment and you walk into a church and somebody's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And you got like 5 minutes max to tell them how it's going. Like, you don't want to get into the deep, dark stuff, right? I mean, just all honesty, you don't want to get into that point. So it's a struggle. Church reports are not really the right venue. I don't know if you've ever read, missionaries' newsletters, okay? Shocker, all the bad stuff's not in there. Just going to let you know, okay? Some of that's filtered out for the sake of the things that I talked about up above. I know several missionaries who really want to say that kind of stuff. It's just a struggle. Why? Because tough things are just tough to talk about. You and I know that just from everyday life, and that's the same with them. So what's our goal? Sweet. Christine and I see all of this on the field. We see it for 5 years. We're immersed in it. We're talking to the parents of the kids who we're working with, seeing all these struggles. We see it. God, we believe, has built us to meet that need, or at least go towards it, walk towards it. So what's our goal? Keep missionaries healthy on and off the field. I can't tell you that every missionary that goes to the field or goes overseas is meant to be there for 50 years, okay? If God calls them back after 5, if God calls them back after 10, if he calls them back after 3 months, okay? We have a heart to see them be healthy in whatever their next step is. If their next step is missions, if their next step is going back into the workplace or whatever they were at, we want them to be healthy on and off the field. So that's why we spent the last 3 years trying to figure it out. Christine and I are both teachers. That's what we are by trade. I'm a teacher and a basketball coach. So and she's a teacher and a volleyball coach. I will never shortchange her on coaching. She's so much better than I am. But in that right there, we didn't see the ability to help missionaries the way we thought they could be helped, the way they needed it, the way we saw the need. So over the last 3 years, Christine, we were missionaries in residence at JBU. She started her master's in counseling. She got her master's in counseling. She's a licensed associate counselor as of 1 month ago. Already started towards her 3,000 hours to become a licensed professional counselor and working towards building a clientele base with MKs and missionaries. I should also add that she's building a local clientele base as well, because while we're building our work with missionaries, there's not as many hours for her to get her 3,000 hours. She has to get 3,000 hours in the state of Arkansas to become a licensed professional counselor. That's a lot of hours if you haven't done the math, which we have. It's 3,000. So when you see that not all missionaries are going to be in the state of Arkansas, and she's going to do some online stuff, she needs to build a clientele base here as well. So she is working with local clientele base. She's working with MKs at JBU, and she's working with missionaries. We were obviously missionaries in residence. I have a master's in leadership now. I'm a certified critical incident and stress debriefer. What in the world is that? I'll tell you about debriefing here in just a minute, but critical incident stress debriefing is one of the things that police, firefighters, when you look at first responders, they use when they get to a call. Call was not a great call, and a team was involved. So you sit down afterwards, you have a debrief, what happened, and this is not like a debrief of like, okay, how could we have done better? This is a debrief, how did this impact you? How did this impact me? So I got trained in that because when I look overseas and I look at missionaries, that is a need. I also got certified debriefer through an organization called See Beyond, and then I now regularly debrief missionaries both on and off the field. What do we do that through? Great question. Okay, we have our missions agency, which is Modern Day, okay? That is where we get all of our financial funding through. That is through, all of the support, all of our gifts, et cetera, like that. That is where we go through. No questions. That is it, right there. Modern Day, Modern Day, Modern Day, Modern Day. So to confuse you, we created an LLC called Shoreline. We can't really help all the missionaries that we wanted to through Modern Day, and here's the reason why. Modern Day is very overtly, we are a religious organization who are here to support missionaries. Some of our missionaries work in countries where you can't come in with an overt, we're a Christian organization type of deal. So Christine and I created a website that says Shoreline right there. It's beautiful. It's called withshoreline.com if you ever want to get on it. Now, why did we do this? We did this, number one, because we need to point people towards a piece of information about what debriefing is, but number two, we needed something to say when we walk into a country and they're asking us, why are you coming in here? Who are you with? We're with Shoreline. And they look at it and they look at it, oh my gosh, who created this website? That's amazing, right? Yeah. That's all they're going to say, and they're not going to say, wow, you're probably in here to spread the gospel or anything else like that. We are here to help missionaries. We created a website in order to make that possible. So, yeah, that's all I need to say about that piece. How do we hope to do this? Great question. When we looked at missionaries and their struggles on the field, we saw a supreme lack of how do you care for the mental aspects of what's happening on the field, and how do you coach with that as well. So we want to create personal care, so one-on-one. We do one-on-one and couples debriefing and coaching. I do the debriefing and coaching. Christine does the counseling. It's tailored to the missionary's timing and location. I get the opportunity, I'm blessed with the opportunity that when somebody calls up, like happened a couple weeks ago, somebody called up on a Friday and said, I need a debrief, I need to talk to somebody. I was able to tell them, how's next Monday look? Because you guys support us, and I have the ability to be able to say, whenever, wherever, I'm there. And that's one of the big things that we really feel passionate about is how do we create that margin, create that ability to be able to meet missionaries where they're at when they need it. And that's a big heart for us. Third-party member care provider. All that means right there is that sometimes people want to talk to people outside of their organization. They want to say things about their organization, and they don't feel comfortable saying that to their organization yet. We want to work them towards that, but they don't feel comfortable saying that yet. So we're a third party. We're somebody who's outside the picture, outside the team, outside the structure that they're in, and there will be no consequences whatsoever because we are 100% confidential. If they contact us and say anything right there, short of harming themselves and harming others, then we keep that 100% confidential, and what they say to their organization is up to them. That right there has been a hallmark, and that right there has been one of our key pieces, is keeping that confidentiality. We do it with a missionary perspective. You would be shocked at how many people really kind of start breaking down just a little bit when they're sitting across from us, and they're talking about what's going on, and they're like, man, and the visa line was just crazy, and they're like, well, you get it. When they say you get it, like, I get choked up, because that's exactly why we do what we do, is to be people who get it. people who have stood in a visa line, people who really don't like visa lines. And I can look back at them as they're saying that vehemently and me say, yes, those are terrible. What words do you want to use to describe that? Because I'm there. And then we want to make it as affordable as possible or free. All of the things that we do have the little tagline at the bottom. If you are not able to afford this, our supporters will pick the tab up for you. And that's y'all. By the church supporting us right there, that is what we're able to say. And people take us up on that, and it's pretty cool. Yep. So what's debriefing? Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to walk you very quickly through this right here, and you may be like, man, I'm bored out of my gourd. Don't worry about it. I'm going to get through it as quickly as I possibly can. Debriefing right here is my passion right now. It is something that I get super excited about because it is changing. God using this right here is changing a lot of lives on the field. So what is it? It gives the person the opportunity to tell their story, to examine it, acknowledge the effects of it, make meaning of it, and decide how to talk about it in the future. I sit down with an individual or a couple across from me or a team at times, and we sit there and we go through what has happened. You want to debrief the last 6 months? Let's talk about the last 6 months. You want to debrief the last 6 years? Let's talk about the last 6 years. And we go through it, impactful event by impactful event by impactful event. And as they say that kind of stuff, note back in the struggles that we had, there are not other opportunities where you can just say it all. Like, you can say it all. I have sat multiple days with individuals where they have started at 8 o'clock in the morning and they haven't stopped till 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we still haven't gotten through their entire story. And you just see the burden coming off of them because they've never been able to talk for 8 hours and just say, this is what happened. Here's what happened to my team. This is what happened with my family. This is what happened with me. It is one of the more healing things that God's allowed, and I'll show you that kind of here in a second. Almost healing things He's allowed us to do, I think, in missions. Basically, we talk about impactful events, transitions that have happened, griefs and losses, things that they're grateful for, and then where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Sometimes involves coaching, but everything else is strictly debriefing. What does this do? Great question. If you want to get into like the science behind it, there's some crazy science behind it where debriefing and actually telling your story moves the blood from the back of your brain to the front of your brain. It moves you from fight, flight, or freeze, and it moves it to that part where you start making sense of what's going on. And as I say all of that, God is amazing by creating the human body like that. I mean, it is incredible to be able to do that. It also allows you to take the left side of the brain and connect it more to the right side of the brain. Left side of the brain, the one with like, this is what I do, this is kind of like the tasks, and the right side of the brain being more of the emotions. Mental, it helps us wrestle with the question of, am I crazy? I think that there's maybe 70% of the people who sit across from me, that's one of the heartbeat questions that comes out is, am I crazy? When this happens, am I crazy to think this? And to be able to tell them there are normal feelings that you're having through the course of this is a real help. And it helps us wrestle with the question of, where was God? What questions do I still have for Him? And as we walk through those and get those out, you see them get a lot lighter. That's what debriefing is. That's what I get the opportunity to do. I debrief. I've done it as little as 2 hours, and then I've done it as more as 5 days. So debriefing can take all sorts of different times and shapes. Some quotes. I don't do this. I don't put quotes up here from me. I put quotes up here to let you know what's going on, why I believe so strongly in this, and just to show you what God's doing through your support for Christine and I. This was a quote from an individual a couple of weeks ago. I didn't know what to expect from this debrief. I knew it would be good and that I needed it, but I had no idea how badly. This truly was one of the most valuable things we've done for ourselves, and for our own health while on the mission field. Having a safe place to process a little bit of the past 6 years was really helpful. I can't thank you enough. We'll be forever grateful. This is the last one. I feel so much lighter and more ready to go back overseas with the resolve and plan that I have now. It was also so good to be heard and seen and to put together the timeline and debrief. I appreciate it as well. This debrief was done in the greater context of prayer, seeking God's heart on the matter, how he's gifted and led me in the past, etc., rather than just what I want to do in my life. I cannot recommend Shoreline highly enough. It has truly been one of the most helpful conversations of my life. When I look at what God does through this and is able to do through Christine and I, and just the heart for this, it's not a pride thing. It's humble to know that he can take a basketball coach and do that with it. I mean, y'all have met some coaches before. That it's really kind of cool though. Just as a side note, this is a small side note, to see how God takes the talents and abilities that you've built and that he's built in you over the course of time and apply it. There's so much coaching and debriefing. Like, this is like watching game film from a person's life and then just kind of talking about the different points. It's really cool. Don't have time to go into it. We work with a lot of organizations, and when I debrief, I don't necessarily always have people who reach out to Shoreline individually. They reach out through a bunch of different partnerships. We look at the partnerships, we look at their values, we look at their faith statements before we start working with them, and then we do our absolute best to live up to what our goals are. So we work with Barnabas International, we work with the International Mission Board, Pioneer Bible Translators, Tributary. These are just a few of the organizations that we have the opportunity to work with. And over the last year, I've gotten to do some pretty neat things around the world with some of these organizations. Went to Senegal, got to take Anna with me, and as I took Anna was doing her own little ministry. If you can see her right there, she was teaching people how to read, which is in a slum environment that was there. It was a really cool trip to be able to see her work as I work. That guy in the top left over there, that's Brandon Cole. I don't know if you know Brandon, but we went over to Brandon and Bethany and worked with them for, I worked with them for a week. Anna worked with them for a month. It was a pretty cool deal. Last October, there was an earthquake that hit Morocco. And when that earthquake hit Morocco, a lot of missionaries who were in the region responded and ran to meet the needs that were helping in their region. And as they did that, they saw a lot of stuff. They saw dead bodies for the first time. They saw their houses lost. They said a lot of questions, everything along those lines. And there was a group and an organization who kind of put out an all call. They were like, are there any debriefers that have the opportunity to leave last minute and run to this need? That is what I do, right? That is what I do. This is what I was built for. And when I get on that flight, I was like, this is me. And it was really cool to go and work with that group for about a week and a half to 2 weeks and do debriefings for missionaries over there. It was it was absolutely awesome. You probably know about Honduras. We reported on that. Christine and I got to work together for the first time. Oftentimes I'm debriefing and oftentimes she's counseling, and we kind of do those separate. But we got to sit in those two chairs in the bottom right-hand corner right there and talk to people in the other two chairs over there. It was one of the coolest things to see Shoreline come together. And we brought our own. We only have one piece of merch. We put our logo on the cup, and Christine just carries that cup around. So it was really cool. We brought the cup to Honduras with us, and that means absolutely nothing to anybody, but it was really neat for us. And then with all of those places right there, we actually do debriefing. I do debriefings in our backyard. When I mean our backyard, I mean the Ozarks. There is a retreat center called Tributary, and this couple right here has been amazing. They have caught a vision for how do we come alongside missionaries, and they are debriefers and they're coaches, and they work at this retreat center in the Ozarks, about 3 hours away from here, and they have 5 cabins. It is completely free for missionaries. All they do is ask for donations. And when I called them, I found them online. I called them up and I said, hey, I'm a debriefer and I'm in Northwest Arkansas and I would love to help. Is there any way I could help? And they called back quickly and said, hey, it is just us out here on this piece of property. We would love for you to come and help debrief, because then we can not just do more, but we can do things better and do things healthier, because they weren't taking breaks, because they were just debriefing. So I was able to go up there and work with them. That is a partnership that I deeply, deeply value, and something that I think Dana is looking into jumping in and helping as well. It's a pretty cool deal. Coming up, I have the opportunity to go to a couple of different debriefs. One's with Barnabas. It's in Illinois. We'll have about 15 missionaries that are up there. We'll have about 5 debriefers that are going to help them. It's a really neat opportunity. And then Traction right up there is something I've been trying to get into for the last year and a half, and I finally cracked it. It is, and it's not because of the location, but the location's cool. It's in Switzerland. So, but the deal is there are missionary men from all over the world who go to one location right here in Switzerland, and they bring in 15 counselors and debriefers to just sit with these missionary guys. And if I told you how many missionaries' families go off the field or leave the field because the guy is not okay, it's a shocking amount. This retreat right here for guys has been one of the biggest savers of ministries that I've seen while on the field, seeing guys go to this right here. So I think that there's a little over 230 maybe missionary guys who are going to be there on site, and it is going to be awesome. I'm excited about that opportunity to be able to go and do that. With that being said, we'd greatly appreciate your prayers. We are grateful and thankful for every single one of y'all, for the church, for helping support us, for those of you who support us individually, for those of you who pray for us. We're so thankful. And if you get the opportunity to pray more or differently for us, you can pray for our family as we move 2 kids into college. It's real. It's something. It's something to look at your kids and say, hey, in a month, we're going to have to put some sheets on a twin bed and then say goodbye. That's not something. If Christine was standing here, I would not say that, because that is an automatic. Yeah, but I can say it because evidently I don't have a heart. You can pray for divine counseling appointments. We really want to reach the missionaries that God wants us to reach. And I wish I could tell you just the stories of the individuals and how they contact us and how they find us. And it's incredible to see the way God moves and makes those ways available. You can pray for me as I travel and grow in debriefing. Debriefing is not something that stays stationary. It's not something that is one thing and I do that same thing for every single person. No, I have a batch of things that I can do, and things that God has shown me that are available and that are necessary for missionaries, and I just depend upon Him ever so greatly to pull the ones out that person is needing in that moment. It's humbling, because you walk in every single time just praying. And then pray that we would continue to listen for God's direction. We started this LLC, we started Shoreline last December. We're still praying for how God wants to use that and where He wants to use us to glorify Him the most. So if you get the opportunity, we would love your prayers in that. With that, I would love to open it up for any questions. I if Christine were here, we probably wouldn't do any questions because she explains things perfectly. But I'm sure I have left a gap in some way, shape, or form. And I would love to answer any questions that you might have at all about what we do while we're here.
Guess you did a better job than you thought you did.
Well, I mean, like, yeah. Every once in a while.
Just a comment.
Yep.
Having grown up in a family that welcomed a lot of different missionaries into our home over the years, and seeing so many missionaries giving their missionary report, and seeing so many missionary report letters, I never, even to this day, I still have not grasped the depth of what you've been talking about. And I was thinking as you were showing that one slide of all the different problems, I'm going, well, you know, that sounds an awful lot like what we go through here in our daily lives, until you got to the dual plus stuff. And I'm realizing how the interactions there on the mission field, I started seeing that as so much greater than what we go through because of the intensity of the situation that those people, that the missionaries are in. And I want to thank you for doing what you're doing, opening up my eyes and to the need that there is, and also for going out and putting your lives forward to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's when I looked at putting Hodge up there or not, it was a big concern. But yeah, the kind of pressures, the struggles that I put up on the board, they're struggles that we all face, you know, in some way, shape, or form. When you do that in a fishbowl, when you do that in a pressured environment like that right there, it just makes it a little bit different. It makes the stakes a little bit higher, and the stakes are they're already high. So, yeah.
It's kind of, actually what I was going to ask is kind of similar to what Doug was saying, is that obviously, you guys are caring for people, and you're caring for humans in vulnerable places of their lives, and that's, something that there are local people here, local ministries, local ministers, and just those inside and outside formal ministry. How are you guys deciding who you're going to minister to? I know your heart is missionaries, but do you see yourself opening that up to other, even like stateside ministers, other individuals? The need is so huge. Like, how are you even prioritizing that? It seems tough to decide.
It is. I think when you look at the way in which God is bringing people to us, He's making a lot of those decisions for us. Oddly enough, we have thrown the door wide open. I mean, just debriefing. Okay, counseling. I'll let her speak to that. We have thrown the door wide open for debriefing because I do see the need for it. And in all honesty, when I do debriefings here, when I've done debriefings with, I worked with a different organization, and we did debriefings for like the Springdale Police Department when they had some of the incidents that were over there. When I was doing that, all I was seeing right there was training for what's happening overseas. All I was seeing was, here are events, here are people who are struggling very similarly. And if you look at first responders and you look at missionaries, there's more crossover there than you could ever imagine. Don't have time to get into that, but that is incredible. But as you see that, I see every piece that I do here locally as training for overseas. So I haven't turned anybody down yet. If God brings that watershed flood, I'll come and talk to you, and you can tell me who to send away. But as of right now, God has done a great job of bringing who we need when we need it, and I've been thoroughly impressed by that. Thank you for that question.
I know that from counseling classes at JBU, like, I
Yes. Yeah, that's a great question. Do Christine and I have the ability to offload some of the things that we're talking about? Yes, we do, and we have it in a confidential space as well. We've built that into what we do. That's a heartbeat of ours, and it is a heartbeat of ours to do that for other missions agencies. Like I work with a missions agency that was up on the board, and their leadership has said, "Hey, we're about to lose our leaders because they hear so much of the stuff that's coming up, and there's no place for us to say it coming out." And yeah, we could go get counseling, and counseling has this price tag with it and stuff like that. Is there any way you could debrief our leadership, our leadership? And me taking care of the people down the line is me also taking care of the leaders who are leading that organization as well. So yeah, we see that by a long shot, and wish more people would see it. But yeah, we are taking care of what we're hearing. Thank you though, appreciate that. Yep.
I know you talked about the debriefing could be a matter of hours or days, depending on what the need is. Do y'all see much of people going away and then having to come back for additional help from you?
Yeah. So if you how do I put this well? Debriefing should not be like a one-time shot. Like it shouldn't be like I take the last 30 years of my life and then we're going to debrief the last 30 years of my life. It'd be awesome. It'd be incredible if we didn't have to carry all of that for 30 years. It'd be nice if we could debrief and talk through that kind of stuff, 6 months, 1 year. Do it on a regular interval in some way, shape, or form. There is an organization that I work with who has that in their structure. They're going to debrief on a regular interval, and it's interesting. They have one of the healthiest teams by doing that in one of the most unstable places in the world. And that is a huge testament to what they've committed to doing, is getting that information out. And it's literally, that's what it is. Like, can I verbalize it and get it out of me rather than just holding on to it and thinking that I have godlike powers to be able to hold everything and all the inputs that are coming into me. It's a humbling experience, but yeah, that is yeah. Did I answer that, Dana?
Yeah.
Yes. Perfect. Yeah, great question. I look at a lot of modern statistics when I'm looking at that 76% that are coming off the field. I know that a lot of the data that I look at is like 94 to 2024, so the last 30 years is kind of what I look at. When you look previous to that, are there some missionaries with some different mentalities? For sure. Mm-hmm. Like when you look at missionaries from time past, like some of them were packing stuff in coffins and saying, I'm not coming home unless this is it right here, unless I'm coming back in this box that I'm packing all my things in. There are different mentalities today with connectivity, with the ability to be able to reach out and communicate with family members and things like that. Now you see different mentalities, you see different mindsets. Maybe it's not, I'm going there for my entire life, but maybe God's only called me there for 3 years. And I become okay with that he's only called me to that type of ministry for 3 years, or 10 years, or whatever it is like that. It's not just a lifelong deal. So I think that mentality is more recent, and has probably led to a few more pieces of turnover. I think expectations that missionaries go onto the field on is more critical than anything else, honestly. When you think about what are you expecting out of your leader, what are you expecting out of the place that you're going to, what are you expecting out of your team, what kind of support are you expecting, all those different pieces right there. We have more expectations, I believe, today on our organizations than we did previously. for what our organizations should be doing for us. Yeah, that would be how I'd answer that piece. So, good question. Yeah.
Is there a place for the kids, missionary children too, to do this type of thing also? Or that mainly Christine will do that? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Christine's better with children than I am. Like, that's just drop the mic. She's that's a given. When you start putting this beard up there in front of children, they just go scattering. And it's just a fact. I'm not dropping the beard. But when we work, she does a great job of working with upper teenage into 20s and 30s. That's kind of like her wheelhouse, where she really hits in there. She is very passionate about TCKs, or third culture kids, or missionary kids, MKs. She's very passionate about working with them and their transitions, especially the ones who are coming from high school into college and working their way back into that piece. She is very, very good at that. She wants to get better at that piece. She really wants to start working her way into how can I reach the 5-year-olds and do play therapy with them. She's taking classes on that. She'd like to get better on that piece as well. So whereas we're tooled up right now for probably upper teenage on, she wants to expand that. TCK debriefing is something that I actually am hoping to get certified in November for. I've got a training coming up for that. Whether I use it or not, at least will help me talk to their parents through the course of that as well. Great question.
It seems like there's a lot of crossover. Can you help tease out the difference between debriefing and counseling?
Man, I get to ask that a lot. Counseling is to be, yeah. No. I'm concerned every time I say like counseling is, and she's, not here to say that, if she corrects me, then that's a daily basis. Counseling is going to look at the issue, or is going to look at the concerns that you have, is going to dig deep into therapeutic, how do we work with that issue, how do we come alongside you with that, and is going to be like, an hour session spread out over time, because I'm going to walk you through this whole piece right here. Debriefing is going to be, how can I look at what has happened in my life from a perspective where I'm not in the middle of it, and get a better perspective. Sometimes debriefing leads into counseling in a very natural sense. It's kind of like the gate to that, but they're not the same. When somebody starts talking about, childhood trauma in the middle of a debrief, I'm not leaning into that and saying, ooh, please tell me more. I'm not running from it, but I'm not saying, like, let's go into that as deep as we possibly can. I'm saying, Christine@withshoreline.com is the email that you need to use for that piece right there. I hope that makes sense. I explain it different ways every single time, so ask me next Sunday, and I may tell something totally different.
Explain the coaching piece of it.
Yeah, coaching is, we define a goal. What is something that you want to do or what you want to accomplish, and then how do we build the structure back to help you figure out where you're going with that. And a lot of that is discovering like who's God made me to be. What are the talents and abilities that He's put in me? There was a missionary that I was talking to last week, and we sat down via Zoom. And as we're sitting there, I said, "What's the question that you want to answer?" She goes, "I want to know how God wants me to use my talents and abilities and my personal mission that He's given me to glorify Him the most." So that's an incredible question. I said, "How has God gifted you, and what's the mission that He's put you on? What's the thing that He's put in your heart that stirs you up right there?" And that was an incredible 3-hour conversation that we had right after that. And by doing that work, she doesn't look at her. she doesn't look at herself and say, like, who am I? She looks at God and says, who does God say that I am, in order to find that peace. And it's an incredible process to be able to walk somebody through that, and look for their identity in Him, not what's everybody saying around me and what do I think I need to do. It's a really cool process. So that's what coaching's been. And sometimes you just look at an issue that a missionary's having, coming off the field, and you say, why are we struggling with that piece, and then how do we go after that as well? So basketball coaching has contributed to that as well. I know how to go after problems, but I don't know how to fix them gently sometimes. So I can fix them, just not gently. So that was a joke. I really can't fix things. Yeah. Where my kids going to college? Jakin, our oldest son, is going to John Brown University. He wants to major in human aid and disaster relief, dual major with outdoor leadership, with the hope of graduating with both of those things and then getting his master's in counseling. So who knows what he wants to do, But I think he's just throwing spitballs at the catalog right now and finding stuff. And then my daughter, Hannah, is going to University of Central Arkansas, and she has a heart for Northern Africa, and at the moment wants to major in psychology and minor in French, and she wants to use her French to be able to do psychology for MKs in Northern Africa. So that's her goal right now. So, yeah, great question. Our junior in high school doesn't have a clue as to what she wants to do. So, yeah. Yeah.
Do you see churches really wanting to become more aware of the needs of missionaries, especially when they come back on home assignment or with their communication with missionaries in the field? I'm sure you get into a lot of different churches.
Yeah. Question would be, do you see churches and their support for missionaries? How does that look? It's different for every church, and I have some missionaries that I've talked to where that's a real pain point for them, like when they come off the field, and when they come off the field, and the missions committee, our missions committee is great, by the way. Let me just drop that right there. But when they come off the field and they walk into the missions committee to give them an update, and the missions committee is saying, like, who are you? Like, what's your name? Like, where are you from? Like, where are you at? That kind of stuff. Like, it's a hurt that hits. There's a lot of out of sight, out of mind. As long as we can send the check and it gets to you, then why do you really need the rest of us? And then there's other churches who take an entirely different perspective on that. And it's, we want to check up on you. We don't want to make it extra work. We don't want to make it extra hard on you right there, but we want to love you. We want to come and see, like, where you're at. We want to come and work alongside you as best as we possibly can. And then when you need something, we want to be there to be able to meet that need. So you see churches on a variety of different perspectives, perspectives on that right there. And it's a roll of the dice on a lot of what you get. I do know that sometimes there are missions agencies that don't require or don't have a single church. Some missionaries have 10 churches that they're supposed to report to. So when they come back on home assignment, the hurt for them is that they have 10 different churches to support them. They're back for 5 weeks, which means that every single Sunday that they come back, they're speaking in a different church, in a different city or wherever they're from. They're very grateful for the financial support that they have, but the reports that they make take up their whole home assignment through the course of that. What else? It's 7:30. I want to let you all out. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. If you have any other questions, feel free to come up and ask. If you know of somebody who needs debriefing, shoot them our website. www.withshoreline.com, and we'd be happy to work with them. We can't tell you enough how blessed we are to have you all as our sending church. This is one of those times where I get a little bit choked up. It's okay. It's going to happen. When I told you that, some missionaries have 10 different churches that support them and come alongside them, and that they have to go back and give reports to, we have one. That's this one right here. And the missions community does an amazing job checking up on us and letting us know that we are loved, supported, and that they're there for us in whatever they can do. So it's humbling to be supported by the church, humbling to be supported by the individuals who are in here, and we're very, very grateful. So please hear that part from us. So let me go ahead and pray us out, and then we can bounce. Father in heaven, thank you so much, God, for just how you care for the people that you send out. God, I just pray for our hearts, for missionaries to be your heart, and that we would never lean upon our own understanding of how to work with problems, issues, or concerns, but we would lean into you and how you want to come alongside your children. Thank you for the goal that you've set in front of us, all tribes, all tongues, all nations, standing before your throne. And we just send out a special prayer for those who are really out there looking for those tribes, looking for those tongues, looking for those nations, and how to reach them best. And God, let us support them as best we possibly can with the time that you've given us and the talents and abilities that you've developed in us. In your name we pray.